Well, let's continue working on the television here. I think for the screen of the TV, that old tube screen, I think I'm going to use something like a sphere to get that rounded shape. Let's try it. I'm going to create a UV sphere and take the segments down to maybe, I don't know, 16, no, how about 12 and 8 rings. And I want to take away half of the sphere, so I'm going to hit the 3 key, the 5 key to go to orthographic. I'll tab into edit mode and hit the Z key, and also switch over to face mode. And now I'll hit the B key to turn on the border select tool, and I'll just click and drag the faces back here at the back of the sphere and hit X and delete faces. Now, I'm going to tab back into object mode and scale in the Y-axis with S and Y and kind of flatten this up a bit so it's more like the screen here. There we go. And then if I hit the 1 key, I'm going to tab into edit mode again, and this time I'm going to border select the faces right up at the top and hit X and delete faces, and I'll border select these down here at the bottom like this, X and faces. And I may even want this other row of faces deleted as well, but let me take a look at it and see what I think here. So let's move this into place, and let's scale it down a bit so it kind of fits around here. And yeah, it almost looks like I don't need these top faces here. So I'll go ahead and select this with the B key, hit B again and select those and hit X and faces again. Now let's take a look at this. If I bring this object forward a bit here in the Y-axis, I can kind of fit it right up against there. That looks pretty good. I'm going to hit the 5 key again to go back to perspective view. I just like to work in perspective view a little better. I don't know why. And then I'm going to come up here to the Tools tab and click the Smooth Shading. And there we go. That kind of smooths it up. So now we have that kind of curved television tube there, and you can of course scale it however you want to get more or less of a curve, but I think I'm going to go with that for now. Now let's work on the knobs over here. So these little guys right here, I don't think they need to be that intricate, but we can at least kind of hint at it. We're going to need a plate here, this kind of just metal plate. I'll go ahead and add one here. Maybe I'll select this face, press Shift S and move the cursor to the selected face. And then from that point I'll go ahead and create a cube right here. It's a little big, and that's okay. We'll scale it down a bit. Maybe take away that face at the back with X and faces, and then we can kind of scale this in the Y with S and Y and scale that so it's a little flatter. And maybe move that into place now. Let's see if that fits. Yeah, that's not too bad. It could probably come down a bit more like that. There we go. And let's put that up here in place. All right, so we have that. There's also another plate right down here, and I'm going to put that Zenith logo on this one down here, I think, and leave this one up here blank because I don't really have a texture for this. So I'm going to go ahead and just put it down here. So I'll just duplicate this, Shift D, hit the Z key and move this down here, and maybe kind of collapse it just a little bit like that. All right, so we have those in place. What else do we need to do? We need to do the legs. Let's do those. For these, now these are kind of squarish it looks like, so maybe a cube. Let's try that. I'll put the cursor back into the center of the grid with Shift C, and I'll come over here to the Create tab and click Cube. And let's scale this down quite a bit. Scale this up in the Z. Let's try and put it in place. I'll hit the 3 key, 5 key, Z key. And now, here we go. We need to try and figure out how tall this is going to be. So let's put this up here up front And that looks to me about the right size for the legs, so let's bring the whole TV down a bit. Something like that. Maybe I can tab into edit mode, select that face at the bottom and press S and scale that in a bit so it's a little bit narrower at the bottom. I'll come over to the front view and let's move it into place here. And then what we can do is with this face still selected, I'll just drag it over a bit, kind of give us that angled look there. All right, that looks pretty good. Now we don't need the top and the bottom faces here, now do we? So I'll select those two and hit X and faces. And then I'll hit the 7 key and press Shift D and move that here in the Y axis like that. I'll select these two, Shift D and X, and move these over here. And now what I can do is I can spin this all the way around. With these two selected, I could hit R180 and that'll spin them all the way around. Alright, so now let's take a look at it. Hit that 5 key. There we go. So now let's work on these knobs here. I'll select this piece, tab into edit mode, Shift S, cursor to selected, and now I can create a cylinder here. Let's reduce the number of faces to maybe 12. Let's try that. I'll remove any cap fill here, so choose nothing. And I'll rotate around the x-axis with RX90. There we go. And let's scale this down and put it in place. SY. And here we go. So this, let's say, is going to be this one right over here. So maybe I can place it like this. Let me go to my front view and orthographic and wireframe, and maybe I can place it a little better like this. Something like that, let's say. I'll zoom in with the period key, and now let's try and create something that looks like this. I don't think I need all of this geometry in here, but we need something that kind of hints at it. So I'll tab into edit mode and maybe go to edge mode and select this edge, and I'm going to move this down here like this for, say, this part right here. Hit E, scale in a bit, and move it out. Maybe scale that in a little more. And let's go ahead and hit E and Y and move that straight out. Let's hit extrude and scale straight out now. And what I'll do is go ahead and bring this forward with EY. And yeah, let's go ahead and hit E and scale this all the way in. And then I'll just kind of punch this out just a little bit and scale this in like this. Now I'll go ahead and press Alt-M and choose Merge to Center. So there we go. So it's not quite what we see here, but I think it kind of hints at it. We can move this back and place it right in here. All right, so there's that. We'll go ahead and take that and duplicate it with Shift D and move that right down here like that. I'll go ahead and press Shift C to move the cursor down to the center of the grid, and Z to go back to shaded view, and 5 for perspective. All right, so now we have our TV. Let's see, is there anything else we need to put on here? I feel like there's kind of a hard edge around here. I wonder if there's anything I can do about that. Perhaps I could choose these faces here and flatten them. Let's try that. If I go to Shading UVs and hit Flat, see what happens there. Yeah, see, that gives it a little more of an edge around there, kind of like this. I think that'll work. Let's now work on UV mapping it and getting it ready to be textured. Now, I know that in this scene, I am never going to see the back of this TV or the bottom of this TV. I know that because this is my project, and I get to say how it's going to be. Now, if you're working on a project in a team environment or a studio, you may not have this kind of luxury, and that's fine. But I know I'm never going to see the back of this TV, and I'm never going to see the bottom of the TV. So I'm going to hit the C key and select these faces back here and just get rid of them, because I know I don't need them and I don't want them in my scene, and I don't want to have to UV them, honestly. So I'll grab all of these and get rid of them. So there we go. There's what we need to UV map. I like that. I like that it's a little simpler. All right, so let's think about this. I'm going to go to my UV editing screen layout. I'm going to hit the period key to zoom into this area here. I think I'm going to wait to combine all of these objects until after I've UV mapped them. I'll UV map them one at a time as individual objects, and I think that's sometimes a little bit easier. I don't want my UV test view here, so I'm going to click the X right here to get rid of that for now. So let's begin. I'm going to select that TV screen. I'll press Shift H, and there it is. So that looks like it's going to be pretty easy to UV map. I'll tab into edit mode, hit the A key, U, and unwrap. Now it's looking a little curved here. I think we can maybe apply our transforms and see how that looks. I'll press Control A and hit scale. And I'll tab into edit mode and hit U and unwrap, and yeah, that looks a little better now. Now I have this stretch feature turned on just so I can see the amount of stretching here, and it looks totally blue, which means no stretching, so that's good. I'll go back to object mode, press Alt H to bring everything else back. Let's work on just the cabinet now. I'll select that, press Shift H, and here we are with just the cabinet. Tab into edit mode, and let's see if we can split this out in a reasonable way here. I think maybe I'll press Alt and click an edge. Here, let me get into edge mode. So I'll press Alt and click this edge now. And that selects that entire edge all the way around. I'll go ahead and add a seam there. Mark seam. Let's go ahead and add a seam here and here as well. Control E, mark seam. And that'll break those out. Now I'm going to want to use this area to UV map that speaker screen, so I better split this out as well. I'll press Alt and click, and that doesn't much help. I'll just press Shift and select these edges here and mark a seam. I'll also split out this interior piece here too. I'll press Alt and click and Shift and Alt. See if I can get these selected all the way around here. Like this and this. Let's go ahead and break this out. Mark seam. All right, let's see how we did. I'll tab into object mode, press Control A and choose scale. And now let's go into edit mode, hit U and unwrap. And I don't like this, whatever that is. What is that? That's kind of gross. Let's take a look at that. I want to turn this on so that I can select a face and hit the period key over here and zoom in and see what that is. Let's select face mode here and hit L. Hover over a face and hit L, and that'll select that whole thing. That's this whole piece here. So we should probably split this up as well to break it apart into its individual edges here. So let's take this edge here and here and all the way around to here, and let's mark a seam there, and let's do that for all of the other parts or sides as well. I'll go ahead and select this and these edges, and let's do the same for down here. Alright, with those seams marked, let's go ahead and select everything again, hit U and unwrap and see how we did. Yeah, that's a little better. See how it's laying these out flat now. I think that'll work a little bit better. Now I'm going to hit Control up arrow and take a look at this full screen. One thing I'm not too sure about, Let me turn this part off here. And if I select this piece right here, let's move that out and take a look at this. I'm not real wild about all of this. I think because I'm going to be laying down kind of a wood grain veneer on this, I'd like to have this piece split out so I can arrange it in line with the wood grain as well. So let me go back to my object here, and it's this one here, isn't it? So I'll select this edge right here and this edge and mark a seam, and I'll do this down on the bottom as well. Alright, let's try one more time. A, U to unwrap, and here we go. Let's see how we did here. Yeah, I think that works a little bit better. Let me hit Control up arrow here. And yeah, I think we're going to be able to align the wood grain a little bit better with this. That's good. I'll work on aligning these once we get everything all combined together again. So let's go back and let's try the next part. I'll press Alt-H. And what else do you want to do? Oh, how about this piece here? Let's try this. I'll press Shift-H. And let's just try it like this. Why not? I'll press Control-A and hit the scale. And then I'll tab into edit mode and hit the A key, and let's just try U and unwrap. What do you think? Not great, but not bad. Now this is going to be all one just solid material. We're not going to be putting any wood grain or text or anything that we can really tell that it's stretched. So since it's just going to be all one material, I think I'm going to leave it and give it a try. You can see all the stretching here, but a lot of that is what's going on back here inside the TV. I mean, this part here is going to be pretty well hidden. So let's not worry too much about this. I think we'll be okay. Now let's work on these pieces here. I'll just select it, hit U and unwrap, and that's really ugly. Let's try and apply our scale and try again. U and unwrap. That's better. Yeah, I don't mind, once again, the stretching around the edge because it's going to be all one material. Let's try this one. Control-A scale. Tab into edit mode and U and unwrap. That's not too bad either, although this one is going to have a texture on it. Maybe I can just go ahead and select these edges here just to see if it's going to help it a bit. Let me select these edges around the corners, mark seams here, and recall that there is no face on the back of this, so it's just a one-sided object here, which is good when we're UV mapping. I'll go ahead and select everything in U and unwrap, and that allows that to break apart a little easier. That looks a little better. All right, now this part right in here, we need to think about here. So where is this face right here? There it is. We're going to have to remember and know where that is because we're going to put a texture on that as well. Let's do one of these. I'm going to press Shift-H, zoom in with the period key, and for this we could probably just create seams along here, 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 and I'm going to put seams here and one there. So we've kind of got seams breaking out the cylindrical parts and keeping the flat parts. This part here, I'll go ahead and split that out too, just to see how we do there. All right, let's try it. Control-A and scale, select everything, U and unwrap. Yeah, that's not too bad. That breaks it out because we're going to put a black kind of color here on that top part right there. All right, that's not too bad. Now that that is UV mapped, I'm not going to do the other one. I'm just going to duplicate it. So I don't need this. Get rid of that. Take this one and just duplicate it now that it's been UV mapped. There we go. All right. I think we need the legs, right? Let's do those. I will go ahead and make those all one object with Control J. And now if I hit Shift H, it will isolate those. I'll tab into edit mode, and once again, since these do not have any tops or bottoms, I can go into edge mode and just select these center edges like this and mark a seam there. I should probably apply the transforms for the scale, hit A, U, and unwrap. Good. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. Now, Alt-H to bring everything back. Select everything with the A key. Control-J to make it all one object. Tab into edit mode, select everything, and now over here in the UV map, I'll hit the A key to select everything, press Control-A, press Control-P, and now we have everything in the map. Let's see how we did. I'll hit Control-Up arrow, and let's see how we did. I'd kind of like to rotate this, so I'm going to click this Rotate here. There we go. Hit Control-Up arrow again. All right, so now we've got things pretty well placed. I can see this is the top of the television. These are the sides, I believe. They should probably be in line with each other. Here's all the edges. They're pretty well in line with each other. Let me just rotate this one. I'll press R90 and see how that works. Let me scale it down just a hair so it'll fit in there. There we go. So I think that looks pretty good. I think all of the wood grain now is going this way. We've got our TV screen and our frame around the screen here. This is the polygon we want to lay that speaker texture down onto. And this is the plate that we want to put the zenith thing onto. Now, I can scale that up just a little bit, give it a little more breathing room there. It doesn't need to be quite that small. That could help there. Give that a little bit more detail. There are these here. These could turn the other way, couldn't they? Let's try that R90 here. And let's see, we'll need to fit that in somewhere. This could turn the other way. I'll need to fit that in here in just a minute. And all of this is all one piece or all one texture. All of this needs to be together. Let's grab all of this and move this out so we can separate that out. I'll go ahead and move these down here. These aren't really prominent in the television, I don't think. And scale them back up a bit. And then I'll take this guy and allow him to breathe a little bit more since we're going to have actual, texture on that. There we go. All right, so now I've got it arranged, I think, to maximize this part and this part that are going to actually accept a texture. And then all of these pieces here are going to have wood grain on them, and they're all going in generally the same direction. So let's see how this works. In the next video, we'll start working on the textures.